Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to another GameMaker tutorial. My mic is just a little bit low there. I think it'll be fine. So, today we're going to talk about shaders, and I'm excited because shaders are super powerful. And when GameMaker introduced shaders, it was a major change in GameMaker Studio. And shaders can be difficult for people. They were difficult for me, and it's hard to find resources on shaders. I was finally able to find some different written tutorials that I could read through, and I'm actually going to put a link to those in the description. I'm trying to remember who did them. I don't remember who did them, but I'll give them credit in the description. You can check out those. They're kind of where I've picked up the amount that I know about shaders, but I wanted to do a video tutorial on them because I think that will be useful for you guys as well, to see a video tutorial. So we're going to do a very, very basic shader today. So we need to get some basic setup done. So first thing we're going to do is create a new object in a new room, and also a new background. So you can just click all three of those and create them. We'll just call this background test, and we're going to load a background, and I'm just going to choose a background from my documents. Here we go. It's a background from Grain War. It's 640 by 360. You can choose whatever background you need. If you need to pause the video and go to YouTube and download a background, whatever you need, it doesn't matter. Just make sure it has color. So that looks good. We're gonna press OK on that. We're gonna name our object now. I'm just gonna name it obj test underscore test. And then our room, I'm gonna name it rm underscore test, and I'm going to give it a width of 640 and a height of 360, which is the width and height of the background that I had. And now I'm going to put that test object in the room. It doesn't really matter where. You can put it anywhere. So we've got our basic setup done. Now we need to create our shader. So come up here, you can see there's two little page looking icons here. The one on the left is for scripts, and the one on the right is for shaders. So click the one on the right, and that's going to create a new shader, and you're going to get this window that will pop up that has this code in it already. And there's two tabs up here at the top. You can see one says vertex and one says fragment, and each of them has some code in it. Now, what is a shader? A shader is basically a simple way of explaining a shader is that it's a program that runs on every single pixel in your room before it's drawn. So you can see in this tutorial we're only going to worry about the fragment shader because it's the simpler shader, but you can do quite a bit with fragment shaders. So we're just going to leave the vertex shader completely alone. We're not even going to mess with it. All this stuff right here in the vertex shader, don't touch it. Come back to the fragment shader, because this is where we're going to mess with it. So there's this main function right here. You can see it says void main. Now the void right here, this is just the return value of this function, which void means that it doesn't have a return value. So inside of this function though, this is what's going to run on every single pixel. So let me do my best to explain what's happening here. This right here is GL frag color is going to be the finished product for the pixel. So whatever this is equal to, that's what the pixel is going to look like when the shader's done manipulating that pixel. So you can see the first thing that we have is we have v underscore v color. Now this is the color of this pixel. Whatever this pixel is, this is its color. And then we multiply that by the texture, which is going to be whatever texture the shader gets. So in this case, it's going to be this background. That's going to be the texture. And then a coordinate on the texture, which is the pixel coordinate of that texture. So that's the pixel location in the texture. So this is the color, and then this is the texture, and then this is the coordinate of the pixel. And this function just returns that entire text, returns that pixel. This is like, here's our color, and then all of this combined right here is the pixel. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a shader that changes the color of the pixel so that it only shows the green value. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create some variables up here. And the nice thing is that this right here, well, the nice thing is that this is just a red, green, blue alpha. So this has a red value, a green value, and a blue value. So we could do v_v color dot r, and that's going to be its red value. Or we could do dot g, which is its green value, b for the blue value, and a for the alpha value. Now, a variable like that contains more than one value is called a vector. So it's just a vector is a variable that has more than one value. So we're going to create a vector called color. This is going to be our color, whatever color we want to set the pixel to. So vector 4, because our vector is going to have 4 values. So vector 4 color equals. So you know how in GameMaker we declare variables, sometimes we'll go var maybe color equals whatever. The var keyword just tells GameMaker what kind of variable that is, that it's a local variable. This vector keyword right here tells the shader that this is a vector variable. So we're going to create some other variables here. We're going to create floating variables. Now a float also tells, we're going to create 4 of them, float, float, float. A float also tells the vector which type of variable we're creating, and a float always has to be a decimal value. So we're going to create a float red value equals, and then we'll have a float green value equals, and then a float blue value equals, and a float alpha value. We're going to use these floating variables to create our vector color. So for our red variable, because this is a float variable, it has to have a decimal. So we can't do a 0. We have to do 0.0. If we tried to do a 0, it would crash. It wouldn't compile. So we have to do 0.0. Now, the values of these go from 0.0 to 1.0. You could do 2.0, but that would be twice the value of what it was before. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a 0.0 for the red value, because let's name our shader actually, SHD green. We're trying to make our shader change all the pixels to only show their green value. So we want to set the red value to 0. And we want to set the blue value to 0 as well. And then the alpha, we want to set it to 1.0, because we want it to be just its normal alpha value, show it 100%. Now for the green, what are we going to do? Well, this vector right here, this variable, v_v color, contains the red, green, blue, and alpha values of the texture right here. So if we're on this pixel right here, it's going to have the red, green, blue values of that pixel. So we can use that to get the green value that's already there. So we're going to do v_v color dot g for green. Now we have all the variables we need to create our color vector. So we're going to create a vector 4, because we told it that's what it was, that it was going to be a vector 4. So vector 4 color equals vector 4, and then you do parentheses, and I accidentally hit F10, which takes off your highlighting. So you do parentheses and then you pass in the 4 values because it's a vector 4, so it takes 4 values. So we're going to pass in red, green, blue, and alpha. Okay? And put a semicolon at the end. So we've got our color now that we've created, and it has a red value of 0, a green value of whatever the green value is in our background, a blue value of 0, and an alpha value of 1. Now what we can do is for our output here, instead of doing just the basic color that it was originally, we're going to use our new color that we've created. So we're going to do color right there. So everything else should be the same. This pixel is going to be the same pixel that we're modifying. But we're going to apply our color, the color that we've created right here, instead of the color that the background had before. So now you've created your very first shader. Good job. Now it's time to actually apply the shader to the background. So come into our object. We're going to add a draw event to this object and drag over a piece of code right here. Apply the shader. So applying a shader is generally done onto a surface, but we can just do it onto this background for now, because you can do that. You can apply a shader onto anything you draw, but most of the time people do it onto surfaces. So we're going to do shader set shader green. So that's just saying, okay, we're going to, whatever you draw next, use this shader to draw it. Now we're going to draw the background. Draw background, BG test. And then the X coordinate is 0 and the Y coordinate is 0, because we're just going to draw it up at the left corner of the room, which will just fill the whole room because our background's the same. The background's the same size as the room. So then we're going to do shader reset, which just tells it, okay, you're done using the shader now. And that's it. Now we should be able to run our game, and it should draw the background with only the green value. You can see that that worked. So if we come in and we remove, if I comment out the shader set and shader reset and run the game, it's going to draw it without the shader, which is just going to be the normal colors. So you can see there it is, the normal colors, which I think look a lot better. But let's apply our shader again and see how this looks. Now, I would highly encourage you to mess around with shaders. So we're going to do just a little bit of that in this video, just so you can see some of the things you can do. So currently we have our shader. It's just drawing the normal green value. Well, let's do the green value times 2.0. So we're going to times its green value by 2. So we're going to get a green value of twice what it was before. So let's just see what that looks like. I don't even know what it's going to look like. I haven't done this before. Okay, so it's like a really bright green now because we're multiplying that green value. It looks really, really bright. What would happen if we did that with every single one of them? If we were to multiply them all. So let's do it with the blue and the red. So we need to change these to red and green. Oops, red and blue. Red, green, blue value. And we're multiplying them all by 2.0. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so it's the same colors that it was before, but now it's like brighter. It's kind of a brighter shader. You can see if we were to remove the shader, it would be the same colors, but just kind of darker. Yep. So let's just really quickly, it's too much fun to mess around with shaders. I want to show you one more thing. Let's see if we could do a black and white shader. So I'm going to do a cheap one. This isn't a perfect black and white shader, but I'll do a cheap one and show you here real quick as well. Let's create a new float variable, and we'll just call this Oh, black, white. Okay, we're going to set it equal to, well, we can get rid of all of these colors now. We're going to set it equal to the average of all of the other red, green, and blue values. So do v underscore v color dot red divided by, let's see, times v underscore v color dot green times v underscore v color dot blue. And then we're going to divide them all by 3, right? Because that's how you get the average. Make sure you do 3.0 and not just 3, because everything has to be a floating value. And now instead of passing in red, green, and blue, we're just going to pass in black, white, black, white, black, white, and alpha. Let's see if that works. So that didn't work at all. We've got red. Oh, I did Y. What the heck? Blue. Okay, red, green, blue divided by 3. Let's try that. I'm just using F5 to run the game. That's a shortcut. Now that didn't work. Oh well. Looks like I need to mess around with that a little bit more to figure out how to do a black and white shader. We've got the green value, the red, green, blue value, and we divide them all by 3.0. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing what it's doing. I wonder what would happen if we only passed in like one of the values. Let's just do green. I just want to see what happens. So we're just going to pass in the green value for every single one. Green, green, green. This is probably going to be a crappy black and white shader. What? That is crazy. Did that even work? Oh, I passed in the red value, not the green value. But still. Really? That is crazy. It's like the same color. And we are applying the shader. Huh. That is not what I expected it to do. Not at all. Interesting. Oh well. There you go. We can just pass in our 1.0 or our 0.0, our green, our 0.0, and our alpha value again. And we'll get back to our original green shader, which just drew everything green like that. So what I would recommend though is just messing around with it. There's still a lot that I have to learn about it, but I was able to build some basic shaders on my own after reading through the tutorials. So if you want to learn more, definitely check out the link in the description. They're very well written tutorials. Whoever did them did a great job. They were really useful to me. I'm excited to learn more about shaders, and I'll keep teaching you guys as I go and as I learn more. So thank you guys for watching this video. Be sure and like it and share it on Twitter. Share it on Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus if you use Google Plus. But thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.